Welcome to Moments in Time with Lucien Byfield. This time we shall look back on the history of the Russian Grand Prix. 3 times Lewis Hamilton has stood on the top step, and the other 2 times have been shared between Nico Rosberg and Valtteri Bottas. Bottas in 2017 was to become a winner for the first time, sustaining immense pressure from a fast-catching Sebastian Vettel, who was briefly thwarted by Felipe Massa in the closing laps, which infuriated Seb, and rightly so. Sometimes little Felipe could be obstinate and stubborn for no reason, and he was never ever wrong, was he? As for Mercedes, in 2014, the first race held at Sochi, driver Nico Rosberg was to lock up, severely flat spotting his tyres at the start of the race. He pitted and ran the whole race bar 1 lap on 1 set of tyres and still came second. Now, with Hamilton winning, resulting in a Mercedes 1-2, this was to give the team its first constructors title. And this year, they are looking set to claim their 6th straight at some point, matching Ferrari from 99 to 04. But that race highlighted how processional and boring it could be at Sochi, with such a long front straight, if you can call it that. Basically, suiting the faster cars, giving them such an advantage that if a driver leads into turn 1, the result will be inevitable. Sadly, for Rosberg, so competitive in 2014, he always had the pace to win, and in 2015 the same applied, as he led from the start, only to succumb to reliability issues, handing another easy win to Lewis. In 2016, Nico was back, on fire, and on a 7-race winning streak. This time it was Lewis, soundly beaten, but who would suffer some technical issues late in the race, though not terminal. Basically, Mercedes have owned this place, yet with Ferrari's resurgence this year, combined with their superior top speed and that massive pit straight, I think Mercedes' domination at this track may finally come to an end. Mercedes, oh. There have actually been some pretty amazing moments to look back on, and one of the most famous involved the torpedo himself, Daniil Kvyat, at a time in his career that was to see him demoted from the Red Bull top team and sent back to Toro Rosso, ultimately leading him to lose his drive for over a year. The irony of this episode in 2016 was that Sebastian Vettel, after clashing with Kvyat in the previous race, and amazingly being hit by him twice in this race, was seen talking to Horner and co at Red Bull, despite no longer driving for them. Yet, he somehow played his own part in getting Daniil demoted. It appears, anyway. Even further irony, it has been Sebastian Vettel who has been possibly the most notoriously messed up driver since then, almost like karma has finally caught up with him. Multi-21. His dirty block on Hamilton last year was disgusting. Yes, there is Grosjean too, challenging for that title of worst driver, consistently so, and he had a mammoth crash here in 2015, the same weekend where we saw Carlos Sainz go head-on into a safety barrier and remain stuck there for what seemed like an eternity. But one of the great tangles that year was between the up-and-coming Bottas in a Williams at the time and Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari. Kimi, possibly rattled by the emergence of another Finn, and at the time in his career being under constant scrutiny for his many average performances, he was to make a very dodgy rookie-style error, lunging from way too far back and taking the helpless Bottas out. One amazing statistic in 2016, we were to see Nico Rosberg get his first ever Grand Slam in a weekend, that being pole, the win, leading all laps and getting the fastest lap too. This was a brief period in Nico's career when he was seemingly invincible, unstoppable, and this phase clearly played a big part in him winning the title that year. This circuit has not often yielded a true classic race. Most punters seem to want it removed from the calendar. I actually love it, visually and technically, but to make matters even worse for the Russians, not only have Mercedes won all 5 races so far, the team were to employ team orders last year, holding back Bottas. Now, given that Hamilton won half of the races in the season and Bottas won none, with such a massive points lead already, Hamilton did not need this intervention, and Bottas had the race under control. Now, Toto Wolff, the manager at Mercedes, had promised he would not intervene, and yet he went back on his word, asking Bottas to comply, which Bottas stupidly did. For me, the man to watch this weekend is Valtteri Bottas. He has shone in the Williams and the Mercedes, bagging podiums for both, and in recent years scoring a win and leading last year comfortably. He is again, for the third season running, falling terribly behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton, and has just come from Singapore having to yield yet again via team orders. Bottas is either going to win or explode with rage, for he keeps failing over a season one way or another, despite having all the ingredients to be a top driver. He just does not have the consistency. He is like David Coulthard, Rubens Barrichello, Mark Webber, all brilliant on their day. All the talk for the last few years has seemingly been, will Vettel bounce back? Can Vettel win the title? Can Vettel come back from the brink? But for me, this weekend is all about, can Bottas come back from the brink? For if Hamilton wins, Bottas will forever be ruined, especially after starting this year so strongly. But watch out for those Ferraris on that pit straight. Well, that's it for Moments in Time with Lucy and Byfield. Catch you later.